Alright guys, so in today's video we're gonna have a look at the massive influence of Slipstream on performance, especially looking at 60 mini go-karts. And we're gonna have a look obviously at a data analysis comparing 2 laps between a driver that is on the Slipstream and a driver that is leading the race, so alone in the front, that is not receiving any push from the back. So as you may know, obviously 60 mini engines are really sensible to drag, and you know, having only like 12 to 13 horsepower, they don't have that kind of power delivery to basically go through the air and cut through the air with not losing any time. So what we see in the data, it's massive difference obviously between a lap time in the Slipstream and a lap time alone. So you probably have seen in the qualifying, there's these massive pile-ups of not pile-ups but like groups of drivers trying to get the Slipstream of each other, and it's basically everybody trying to follow each other, and then in the end they end up basically just being like in a race scenario, like all close to each other and like overtaking each other in the quali. And the unlucky kid will get to the front because he's impatient and he just drives at the front, that he ends up like outside of the top 10s, especially in the very fast tracks like Sarno or Franciacorta, where the Slipstream is highly effective on lap time. So today we're going to have a look at this, and I will show you step by step obviously what you can do to obviously prevent this issue in, let's say, actually not really an issue, but to kind of combat this force in qualifying, and how you can even be strategic about it in the races. So you can have a look. This obviously are two laps. One is the red that is in the Slipstream, and one is the yellow that is in the front. So basically the yellow one is alone, is leading the race, and the red is still the same driver, but it's early on in the race before he actually gets the lead. And obviously he received them like a Slipstream, double Slipstream or triple Slipstream, because he was coming from the field outside of the top 6, I would say, and he came roaring past everybody and he got to the lead, and he actually ended up winning that specific session. I would say it was not the final, but anyways, I don't want to digress. So the whole point of this is to actually show you how big of an impact Slipstream has on your lap time. So you can see we start from the last corner here in Sarno. For the ones that know this track, it's now they've just remade the last corner. It used to be, actually let me design it on the screen. It used to be like that, all right? The hairpin used to be like a bit bigger, I would say, but a lot earlier on into the corner, whereas now it's so much later, okay? And there's a bit of a chicane on the exit. So now it has been completely changed, and obviously you arrive at higher speed here. The speed trap here is much higher. So I will show you exactly how much we arrive in terms of speed there. It's actually, this is the speed trap, you can see at the left. This is the speed trap in this spot, and in this spot, actually before the braking, a little bit early here, this is the speed trap. This is the speed trap, this is the RPMs. All right, so now I'll show you better. So by doing this, they increase basically the speed trap here and there, because obviously, even though this is a very fast chicane, it's a flat chicane, you get out of the corner very quickly. It's a pretty wide open hairpin, and then you have a longer time flat out. Actually, let me show you first of all this. I think this is very interesting. For how long they are full throttle in this from here to here, it's actually huge. You will not believe it. Let's shift it from distance to time to do that. So actually, in terms of meters, no, this is in terms of seconds. Yeah, exactly. So I will show you the distance and then the time metric. So how do I know exactly when the kid is going on the throttle? Well, it's not exact science, because we don't have brake and throttle sensor in the races. Unfortunately, we can use them in the practices, but it's not allowed to run them in the races. So how can we assess when a kid is going on the brakes? Typically, we assess it by the RPM trace. When they're going down, it means they're braking, or they're obviously lifting. But obviously when it's sharp down, like in this case, you see like a sharp down movement, that is because they're braking. And when they are on the throttle, you can see that because the exhaust temperature, the one below, so basically, you know, you have the sensor at the back of your exhaust for the ones who don't know that. So that exhaust basically is measuring obviously the temperature of the gases of the inside the exhaust. And when obviously the temperatures goes up, it's leaning out. So basically it's burning fuel, and obviously the temperature goes up. I don't want to make it too complicated, but yeah, you can see that very simply, that when obviously the line goes up, it means they're going on the throttle. So let me show you. They go on the throttle approximately here at 12:58, and they take up the throttle about here at 20.9. So you have these things because when you're sitting on the limiter, sometimes they are full throttle up until here. Okay, so I actually bring up the calculator. So let's look at this time. So let's make 20.7. So that's 20.7. So that's 20.7 seconds from the beginning of the lap, let's say, minus where we actually start getting on the throttle. You see it's like slightly before the apex. It's just in this point, slightly before the apex. You can see that it's about 262. Let's say 260. So minus 2.6. Now we're gonna have the total of the seconds we're full throttle on the main straight at Sarno. 18.1 seconds. It's absolutely huge for 60 mini. 18.1 seconds, and if you actually see how much difference there is in terms of lap time with the kid that has a slipstream and the kid that doesn't have the slipstream, you can see that here. Okay, actually in this case, I brought it a little bit. Actually, let me do it like that. Actually, let's go back to distance instead of time. It's easier for me, right there and here. So you can see it's about 17.8 seconds. You know, it's pretty much close to what we made a calculation of. You can see there's 17.8. That is the total time that the yellow, without the slipstream, is basically taking to make this 18 seconds. It's 474 meters, by the way. Here you can see the delta distance is very nice to see. So 474 meters in 17.8 seconds for the yellow. For the red, the same distance, 474 meters in 17.53 seconds. So it's 27. Well, actually, let's make a calculation so you see that it's 17.8 minus 17.53, and you will see the difference in terms of lap time with only this straight. It's 27. It's 2.7 tenths only in this. So actually, let me write it down so that later we will remember that. 27. So we'll then basically compute them all together, like we will add them up so we can see. And then let's remove the exhaust temperature. So you can see there's a peak difference in speed at about this point when the one is sitting at 13,700 RPMs and it's 112 kilometers an hour compared to the 108 without the slipstream. And the other is at 13, so it is like 300 RPMs difference, okay, and there's 4 kilometers difference. That's quite interesting. So overall, we lost about 2.7 tenths. What can the driver do about it? Well, nothing, I would say. He can only just like drive so well through the rest of the track that he can try to escape from the slipstream for the other kid behind. But obviously, if they are pushing each other, it becomes very, very difficult. Like, I actually encourage you to go and rewatch the final, where the kid basically was leading by 2 seconds, 2 laps to go. And then the guy in P3, which was one of our drivers, we were P3 and P4, they was basically pushing the guy in P2 instead of overtaking each other. And they closed that 1.8 seconds gap or 1.6, I don't remember how much was. They closed that gap in two laps down to just 1/10. And they were almost able to get him into the last corner, but it was just like missing just half a lap. But yeah, just to show you how quickly you would catch, especially if there's a lot of wind in the race day. I don't remember exactly, but actually yes, it was not headwind on the straight, it was tailwind on the straight, on the main straight here, and it was headwind on the other straight here. So actually, let me write it down for you. So it was the wind was blowing in this direction, Okay, so in this straight it was headwind, and I will show you now, you will see what I'm talking about. Whereas in the other straight, actually it doesn't allow me to do it together. So in this straight, which is the main straight, it was blowing from the back. So obviously it was helping. So in this case, yeah, because obviously this is constant. So here it was headwind, all right? Whereas for the other part, so in this case, it's helping you. It's good. Let's make it plus. But in the other parts of the track, it's actually hurting you. So with the track where it's going in the other direction, it's hurting you, which is the back straight here. Okay, I don't want to digress. So let's actually erase everything. And my point being is that obviously when there's a lot of wind, the only thing you can do is just put your head down as much as you can, and try and hope for the best. Hopefully that the guys at the back are messing around and you can have a little bit of a gap. But as I said, if they are like separate between each other, so you're like leading your race and there's like a 1 second gap, then there's the guy in P2 that has 1 second gap for the guy in P3, and the guy in P3 has 1 second gap, which is very rare in mini races. But if that happens, that they're not able to push each other, then it's very less likely that they will catch you with the slipstream. Okay, at 1 second, the slipstream is already effective quite a bit, but it gets exponential towards the end. Like when you get within half a second, 3/10, it gets very, 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 very efficient. So let's have a look actually what I was starting to show you. Now here we are the back straight. So think about it. In this straight, we are 3 kilometers difference. So as we said, about 3, 4. But look at the huge difference on the other straight, in the back straight. So in the other straight, there's about 5 kilometers difference, which is this one. And the straight is even shorter, because if you look at it, the straight is 911 up until, if you make the calculation, it's so 1092 minus 911, it's about 180 meters. Yeah, it's 180 meters compared to the 460 meters, I would say, of the other straight. And it's so much short, like in terms of time. But why there's such a big difference in terms of speed? Because, well, as I mentioned, in that case, we had tailwind on the other straight, but here we had headwind. So who do you think, you are basically the driver, okay, with your go-kart, let's say. Actually, I'm the worst drawer in the world. So you're coming here, all right, you're on the main straight and the wind is blowing in your face instead of from the back. Imagine you only have 12 to 13 horsepower depending how quick the engine is. I'm just kidding. But imagine that. I mean, you are arriving there and you're basically being dragged. It's like, have you ever tried to go in a road car and put the hand out of the window and like try to put it flat? You just cuts the air. When you put it like that, it's completely completely slowing you, like not slowing you down, but you feel the force of the air. Obviously we don't quite notice it when we're walking speed, but with the higher the speed, the higher the drag from the air feels. So obviously the goal is to put the head down as much as possible, but still, like, you will not do as much as obviously as being in the slipstream. If you're in the front and you're leading the race, you can't do much about it. But this is just to show you how much difference there is in terms of lap time in just the straight. So if you remember, we had 2.7 tenths difference in a very short straight. Okay, if we look now, at a very long straight that was about 470 meters. We were spending a long time full throttle, a very long time. In this one, where we're spending less time full throttle, look at the difference. And the yellow, by the way, gets a much better corner here. The red is forced to lift. I think there was traffic in there, but look how much difference there is. Okay, there's just 1/10, even though we should be fair and actually bring it later. So there's 1.1 tenth. Okay, 68 minus 57. It's just 1.1 tenth, but in just 4.6 seconds. Compared to before, we had 18 seconds, 2.7 tenths. So if you put it in the perspective, here there's so much bigger difference. There's almost 5 kilometers difference. If you make at the very end of the straight before the braking, if we make the difference in terms of speed, if we make 111.88 minus 107.2, well, 0.02, let's say. Look at this. Oh, actually, okay, let's just make under 7 because it's under 7. There's 4.88 kilometers an hour. It's absolutely huge. where we saw that in the other straight it was like 3 and 4, but it's even larger here. It's about 5. So the RPMs obviously have a big difference. Like we are 13.7 thousand RPM compared to a 13.3. So sorry, 13.7 compared to a 13.2. So there's 550 RPMs difference. So obviously we'll feel that the engine is like less roaring. It's like bah, compared to like bah. Like, you know, obviously when you're still not close to the limiter, because the limiter is 14,000. You're not almost touching it, but obviously you're far from it when you're alone. So obviously that is you're a bit like they say, you're a sitting duck on the straight. Like you feel like you're so slow. Same scenario happens in here. You can see this is not, you're not even straight here. Like you're staying in a corner for so long. Look at here. We accelerate from here. This is a very complex section. Turn 10, 11, one of the most tricky of the track, I would say. You come out of here, you're staying flat out. Some kids can even make it flat. The very good ones, they can almost make it flat or even do it flat when there's a high grip. But they're flat from here all the way to there. If I look in terms of meters, how long the speed, like the time is between the, let's say, the apex of the leg and the braking is actually 253 meters, 252. All right. You want to see how much the kid lost despite having a better minimum speed. Like, look, the yellow kid that was on the front, I mean, it's still the same kid, remember? Still the same engine. This is what I want to say. It's the same engine, the same driver, the same session. There's one lap in the slipstream and one lap alone, just to show you. So there is, wow, 911 minus 877. Let's see, for the ones good at math, they probably have already done it themselves, but I want to show you with your own eyes how much of a difference there is. Oh, actually, I screwed up. It's not 70. So it's 911 minus 877. And by the way, for the ones that ask me, I will show you exactly how I make this calculation, like how I do this. So it's 34. So it's 34 hundredths. So 3.4 tenths, that adds up to the 1.1 tenth of the back straight here, and then the 27. So now we will make the total calculation. So in this case, you see we arrived with, oh my gosh, 6 kilometers different, 103 against 109, like 5.7 kilometers difference. Huge, huge. And that's why when you're arriving here, by the way, I want to see for the ones that actually paid attention. Where did we say the wind was blowing? Was the wind blowing in this direction? Or is it blowing in this direction? The wind was blowing in this direction. So it was, actually let me erase that. So it was a headwind on the main straight, helping you from the back. But then it was tailwind. It's the same. The wind has not changed. It's still the same line. It's tailwind. It's headwind on the other straight, and it's still headwind here. It's headwind here. It's headwind there. So obviously here you arrive and you also have the speed drop there. So you can see how much of an influence the wind has on performance, on slipstream and whatever. So you obviously, if I was going into quali with my drivers right now, I would have really forced them to persuade them, I would say, and coach them to get a very good slipstream and try ideally to push each other and to try to, I mean, when I say push each other, not to push each other out, I mean to push each other together to benefit from the massive drag that you get following. And obviously the guy at the head, the front gets the push from the back. So that's typically the best case scenario here in Sarno. And if you will make the calculation, guys, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So we had on the main straight, there was 2.7 tenths. So actually, let's talk about tenths of a second. So 2.7 tenths, it was on the main straight, all right? Which to me was actually not that much, considering that's the longest straight by far. Plus the 1.2 tenths of the other straight, because I mean the kid got a better run in the yellow when the lap he was alone, he got a much better exit, so it was only 1.2 tenths. Otherwise I think it would have gone up to 2 tenths. Plus the 34 hundredths, so the 3.4 tenths of this last straight we have checked, which is not even a straight, it's like slightly turning when you're not perfectly straight. So in total, in this lap, it was 7.3 tenths. 7.3 tenths seconds of slipstream difference between a lap when you're like alone and a lap that you are in the slip. So you can understand how, I mean, like you would be, like if you would go into quali, try to drive alone here, yeah, you would completely suicide yourself, I would say. It's not a good, obviously, practice to do that in such a long track, especially with high wind, because obviously, remember, when there's less wind, there's less difference. I think instead of 7 tenths, it would have been like 4.5 tenths slipstream difference if there was no wind. But because there was wind, there was a lot. I mean, not a lot, but I mean, for 60 minute terms, that was a lot to me. So because of that, I mean, the guys who were at the front were suffering like crazy. So it was a matter of pushing each other and try to pull away from the group or to catch the guys at the front. Fortunately, in the final, we were not able to get the win in GR3. We were able to get the win in under 10, which was amazing from Mason Robinson. But yeah, in GR3 we were too busy fighting each other, which obviously was not nice to see from a team manager point of view. But we were very close to it. Like we were P3 and P4 with just like 2 tenths off from the guy in P1, and yeah. So, but we kind of did really good during the whole weekend. We were P1, P2, and P3 in the pre-final. So I mean, that was the performance was amazing. I would say the whole weekend. The result was far from what we expected, I would say, considering the pace we had. But obviously, you know, it's racing, so we'll try again the next time. So this video was just to show you how much difference there is between a lap in the slipstream and a lap alone with the same driver, with the same go-kart, in the same session. So it's not like, oh, but the kid had the better engine, oh, but my engine sucks, so his engine is a rocket. No. So that's like, sometimes I have to fight with this. Like I have to kind of explain people, like either the drivers or the parents, I have to explain them, hey, listen, it's, you know, there's so much difference maybe in the data, yeah, but we don't know exactly from the data whether the kid had a lot of slipstream or he had none or just a little bit, because obviously there's a difference if you have like half a second slipstream or you're like exactly on the back of the kid, or like you were 2 seconds slipstream. You cannot just say, oh, I had slipstream. You have to quantify. Therefore, that's why we have a feedback form where we ask drivers to basically write down their notes after the sessions, and one of those is like, how much was the slipstream? How much is the slipstream? Was it 0 to 3 meters, with 3 to 6 meters, was 6 to 10 meters, or was beyond 10 meters? So it's like almost no slipstream. So that's important, because when you look at the data, otherwise you may think, oh, the engine is crap, it's not pulling, but then you realize the kid was alone. Maybe the engine is a rocket. So yeah. So obviously these things happen on a daily basis. But yeah, my goal for you was to understand this and how you can develop your strategies based on the wind conditions, based on the slipstream effect, and how you can really assess what to do in every circumstance. But obviously, the lower the power, so the lower the category you're driving, like mini, under 10s, or even juniors, the higher, like, or even X30, the higher the difference in terms of slipstream, like effect of drafting. But the more you move up to the ladder, like you would go to OKJ, OK senior, and you go to KZ, the slipstream is so much less effective. Why? Because they have so much more power and they are much better drag efficient, I would say. Their body works is a bit better. The NASA panel and I think it's better engineered for aerodynamic performance and like drag performance. So yeah, the more you go up the ladder, the less efficient. So like if you're watching this video and you're like, oh, but I'm not a 6-minute driver, does it still relate to me? Well, it still relates to you, especially if there's a long circuit with long straights. It still makes a difference. You still have to be strategic about it. That doesn't mean you have to always drive alone, always drive in the slipstream, because obviously the great drivers, I believe, well, I would like to consider myself a great driver from the past, but yeah, as the great drivers that I race with, they always kind of like try to drive not alone, but like they would mix between driving alone in practices and like with the slipstream, so that they could understand their level of competitiveness. But also they want to kind of practice like their solo pace. So if they would have to lead, what kind of carburation they would need, what kind of like what kind of setup and stuff like that they would need when you're at the front. I mean, the reason such a thing as, okay, I don't want to digress, but yeah, but there's a difference in terms of carburation if you're in the front or the back. I mean, I don't want to, this is a video for another time, but yeah, so it doesn't mean, oh, okay, now Alessio told me there's so much difference in terms of slipstream, I should always be in a slipstream. No, this is for you to know and acknowledge how much of the slipstream is affecting your performance, and how you should really crave it in the quali if you are a 60-minute drivers, and if there's a lot of straights. For the kids, for the ones that know Leonato, I mean, probably everybody knows Leonato. Leonato doesn't have a lot of straights. But he has got 2, but it's like almost non-existent. So in Leonato it's very easy to pull away. It's actually possible to pull away also in Mini. And so getting a slipstream in Leonato, even for Mini or juniors or seniors, it's a lot less important than getting a slipstream in Sarno, Franciacorta or Zuera. So it's really depending on the track by track. So yeah, that doesn't mean you always need to look for the slipstream, like relentlessly, like looking at the back and waiting for somebody. I don't want that. I think that's quite silly, I would say. But it's good for the quali when it comes to have like a reference at the front, trying to close the gap. I think that's the perfect scenario. All right, guys, so I hope that was helpful. Write in the comments below if you have any question, or if you like the video, please like it and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.